Okay, hi everyone, I am Pranoy, and today what I want to show you is how you can convert a CSV into a working web application using Five's low-code environment. Now, before starting, make sure to jump onto our website, which is here at www.five.co. Here you can click on this button, which is start for free, and then download Five into your system for free. Okay, so what I have here is this very simple Excel sheet which has these 5 fields, which has name, age, email, food, and overall. Now this was data from a simple passenger satisfaction survey conducted by some particular airlines. So we have the name, age, and email of some particular passengers, and then they get to rate certain facilities provided by the airlines from 1 to 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. So here we have food and their overall experience. Okay. So once you have successfully installed Five into your system, go ahead and open it, and then you'll see this landing screen. What we want right now is to build a new application. So we can do that by hovering over and click on this application tab here, then clicking on the new add item button. Here we can name our application on the title field. I'm going to call it passenger survey. After we have done writing the name, we can hover over this check mark here, which is save, and then click on save. After we have saved it, we'll have this new button called as manage. So let's go ahead and open it. And now we are in Five's development environment. On top, we'll have these menus. Each menu will have a bunch of features, such as visual have forms, chart wizard, logic, data, tasks, setup, and tools. Now you can use all of these features to build your applications. Now what we have here right now is a completely blank application. So let me run it and show it to you how it looks like. So go ahead and we run it. Okay, so now Five starts spinning up a application in your local machine. And as you can see, we have a completely blank application with nothing. We just have a navigation bar, which Five gives us by default. Okay, so let's minimize this. And now what we want is we want to build a table which can take in a data from a CSV. So that's very easy. We can easily create a table by clicking on data, then clicking on tables. Inside tables, what we want is to click on this lightning icon here, which is a new table wizard. We can start off by naming our table. We can call it survey. You can name it anything you want. Then let's click on add fields. Now if we look at our CSV, we have name, age, email, food, and overall. So let's create fields for that. We have name, we have age, we have email, we have food, and then we have overall. Let's give them some size. I'll just copy this. I can play around with the display type or data type, but I don't want to do that right now. So let's quickly click on save. Now we have our table ready. So now what I want is I want to take in my data from a CSV and put this into my table. So we can do that by clicking on this button here, which is import CSV into table. Here I can select my table, which is survey. Then I can choose my CSV, which will be survey.csv. And now here Five recognizes all the fields that it needs to fill up. And then about the primary key, we can tell Five to generate the primary key for us. And then let's click on save. And now we have our table ready with some data in it. Now I want to put this in my front end. So I can do that by creating a form out of it. We can do that by hovering over into visual, clicking on it, and then selecting forms. Inside forms, I again want to click on this new form wizard, which is the lightning icon. Here I can select my table of which I want to build a form with. So I can create a survey table. And then I want to check my add menu item, because if we do that, Five will put this form into our front end automatically. Let's click on next and see if we have everything. And everything is good to go. Then we click on save. And now let's run our application and see what we look like. Let's run it. Now again, Five starts loading up an application in your system. And now you can see that we have some data on our screen. We have the name of all participants, which matches with our CSV. And let's click on one. And now we have their details, such as the name, their age, email, and what they have rated each service. Now what I can do is, since this is a rating out of 5, which is food and overall, I can give it a display type which looks more like a rating rather than just a simple text field. So we can do that by going to our forms, which is at visual, and then clicking on forms. And once we click it, we'll get all of these details here. We have to navigate to pages. Inside pages, we click on general. Here we hover to fields, and then now we have our food and overall fields here. So we double click on food. Here we have a display type which is indicated by text here. What I want is I want to change it to rating, which is rating integer. Let's save it. Let's click on overall and do the same. Let's save it again and then save the entire form. Now let's run our app again and see what that changes up. Okay, so now when I click on one, we see that they look more like rating. So this person has given the food 2 stars and the overall experience 1 star. On the other hand, this person has given it the food 3 stars and the overall experience as 5 stars. We can also edit any data that we want over here. What we can also do is that if you want a similar structure to how our Excel sheet looks like, which is on a very tabular manner, we can also do that inside 5. We can achieve this tabular structure by actually building a SQL query out of it. So let's see how we can do that. So minimize our application. We go to visual, and inside visual, we click on queries. So what I want is I want to add a new query. So let's click on add item. Here I need to give it my own title, which is survey query. And then I want to double click on query. Here I can use this SQL tab here, which gives me a very similar structure to MySQL, where I can write any complicated query. But I'll be using the designer, which is a much faster method. So the way the designer works is that you can click here and select your table, which is survey. And all of the fields that you want to display, you just double click them. So I want my survey key, my name, my age, the email, the food, and the overall, which is basically all of the fields. And actually I can get rid of the age. So we have survey key, name, email, food, and overall. So let's run our query and see. So that's it. On below we have our results from our query, so which is the survey key, name, email, and overall. Okay, so let's go and save this. Now what I want to do is that I want to attach a button to this query. So when I click that button, it will allow me to edit the details of that particular passenger or look at the details in more detailed view. So I know that sounds confusing, but bear with me. It'll be more clear once I explain it. So what we are doing is we are going into the fields tab. Here it shows all of our fields of our query that we are displaying. I want to click on add fields here. And here what we want is we're going to click on display type and then select button. Let's give a caption to our button. I'll call it edit, and then click on save, and then save the entire query. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to display this query into my front end. This can be done by adding this query as a menu item. So let's click on visual, navigating to menus. Let's add a new item. We can give it any caption we want. I'll call it passenger details. Passenger details. Yeah. Let's give it a menu order of 2 and select the action as our query. Let's save it and run our application. Now you see that we have a new menu item here called as passenger details. So if you click on it, it'll show us all of the details of a passenger in this form, which is the survey name, email, food, overall, and we also have this button called as edit over here. So what I want is when I click on this button called as edit, it'll take me to details of this particular passenger and allow me to edit them. Okay, so how can we do that? We can do that by using very simple JavaScript. So let's minimize this. Let's go to logic and then code editor. What we want is to create a new code by clicking on this plus icon, add new code. Let's create a function, which is, it can be any name. I can call it survey or I can call it passenger details. Select my language as JavaScript or TypeScript, whichever you're comfortable with. Press on OK. And now we get the simple boilerplate function. Let's add simple code in here. Okay, so what this code is doing here is that it's whenever we click on the button, it will open up the service menu, which is the other menu, and open the details of the passenger with the particular primary key. Okay, so let's save it. Now let's attach this function that we've written to our button. We can do that by clicking on visual, then going to queries, selecting a query, then clicking on the fields tab, then navigating and selecting the button that we just built, and then going to events. Inside event, we'll have this field called as on click. Click on it and then select our function. Save it. What we can also do is that we can hide our primary key from our front end because we really don't want our primary key to be visible. So double click on your primary key and then you have this field called as show if. What it does is that basically we can display our this particular key if a particular condition is met. So what we can do is we can write false here so that the condition is never met and the field is never displayed. So let's save again, and then let's finally run our application. Okay, so let's go to our passenger details. Inside passenger details, see, we don't have our primary key anymore. We have a name, email, food, overall, and our button. So let's click on the button and it redirects us to that particular details of our passenger, which we can edit. Okay, so we learned how to convert a CSV into a working web app in a matter of some minutes. Now, of course, we can do other things such as adding other features, changing the design, etc. But that's up for future videos. So if you like our content, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned in. Till then, thank you and see you later.